Hello, welcome back to the next Lessons from in Stances series video. In this video, we're covering the dragon stance or the X stance, depending on the system that you have, may have different names. So the stance is like this, right? So I have my front foot out and the hip is opened and rotated, and the back foot is in line, keeping the whole leg in line, and the heel is up. Now this stance is very awkward for a number of reasons, because a lot of stances that you learn before this, there's a lot of rules like say, always keep the heels down because you're driving force from that back heel. But then in this stance, heel is up. What gives, right? Well, like I've said in previous videos, every stance has different emphases and different strengths and weaknesses, right? So this stance doesn't necessarily get its power from the back heel because of its positioning. Because all these stances are trying to essentially give you any kind of step that you might take in a confrontation and then train that kind of positioning. So, right, I might have mostly a forward bow stance type of position for most times, or maybe I might take a horse stance position if I'm like in wrestling, or I might, use a cat stance like in previous videos I've taught you, right? Having a little bit more nimble. But then this dragon stance, it has something else, right? It has twist and it has backward stepping, right? So here, like I might be squaring up with my opponent and I might want to get to the side real quick. I might just do a little quick backward step and follow up, right? So if we slow that down, right? I'm in that position and now I'm back in a bow stance again, right? Or you can get it into twisting type positions, which is really its strength. Its strength doesn't come from driving off of any particular foot, but more in the spiral corkscrewing effect. And its corkscrewing effect comes in two variations. One is coil and one is uncoil, or one is screw and one is unscrew. So with the screwing, we have this kind of drilling downwards into the stance, and with the undrilling, like with the unscrewing, it's in undoing the position. Right? So a way that we usually practice this kind of thing is we stand in a horse stance and then we twist into a dragon stance and then untwist into horse stance, twist into dragon stance, untwist into horse stance. And from these positions, you're learning how to maintain your root while performing this screwing and unscrewing. And from this, you can get power within the twist. So if I were to say like be grappling with my opponent here, right? So I might have him here, and then I might drag, like use an arm drag, and then control his head. As I pull and twist, I might want to get a little bit more power here so I can fully get this steering the wheel effect to try and take him to the ground. So I might use my dragon stance to do that. Because the poetry in the dragon stance really conveys the meaning, and this is why I like to use the terminology dragon stance. The Chinese dragon, right, in the Chinese mythology, is very much like a large snake with a lot of different animal characteristics. But the thing that we're talking about right now is the snake body. And they're seen to, fly through the clouds in this twisting motion. And they coil around pillars, much like a snake trying to climb a tree. So in this way, we're getting this twisting and untwisting as if we're a dragon twisting around pillars. So all of this comes from the twisting. So its root doesn't come from I'm pushing or I'm pulling, but rather I'm twisting. And I often have people like try to root in this stance while people are like pushing on them in different positions to try and off balance them. And in a lot of other stances, it's a lot easier to maintain the balance while people are pushing on them. But in this one, they find it a lot more difficult because in this one, the rooting is a little bit different because it's in that twisting. So once you get that twisting motion right, as soon as they put pressure on you, you just manifest more of that twist, so to speak. And then that roots and solidifies it more to the ground. Not necessarily in the same amount of stability that you would have in, say, a horse stance or a bow stance, but even in such a position as precarious looking as this, you can still have root and should still have root. So just always keep in mind, this one is all about the twist, all about that corkscrew, all about that slithering dragon wrapping around the pole. Right? So I might grapple onto someone and I might throw them over my body, and throw them to the ground. It all comes from that twisting or the untwisting, because the untwisting has to have power too. Right? From here, I might have tried to throw them, but I might have failed. I might have screwed up. They might have slipped out of it. So I got to unscrew and have power coming back. Right? So I need to power corkscrewing down, power uncorkscrewing. So this is what the dragon stance teaches, is this corkscrewing and uncorkscrewing. See you in the next video.